Yeah. Whoa! Yeah, my people. Mad. Now, this is a challenge, right? So we got Jim Jones on the line, right? Because I uploaded that 50 Cent video with T.I. and his son and his wife Tiny. T.I. and Tiny, they're mediocre. T.I. and Tiny, just look at the names. Because if you've been following my channel, um, I've been trying to bring a lot of these international news and reports about the international and American celebrities to my Jamaican audience, because we know mostly Jamaican feed from my Jamaican YouTube channel as well as worldwide, you know. Yeah, so most of my audience will surely comes from Jamaica. I believe that's how YouTube works, you know. Wherever you are stationed, that is where most of your viewers will. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, I'm just here to point out and to assure you guys and to educate you guys that look, and I keep on saying this, that there are two types of people here on earth, right? You have the good guys who will represent God, right? And the good guys who represent God, we're not talking about Christian here, because Christian who is in church, they are not the real warriors of God, whether you want to believe it or not, okay? So, real warriors and real God children are people who are out there in the field, people who are being defended by massive, with almost every challenge between two party or two persons, some people, there's always one on the good side and one representing evil. For most combative argument or debates or fight, war, whatever, there's always, or most of the time it's good against evil, God people against the devil people. Even in the rap game, now 50 Cent is represented by God, and whether or not you want to believe it, right? And you have to know to look for the signs. You have to be wise, right? Because even if you read your Bible, right? The Bible talk about so much people, evil people that doesn't really um even people that aren't haven't accomplished much of a greatness, their names is mentioned in the Bible. Therefore, everyone's life is matter, because once you come in contact with a certain type of people who God loves or who the devil loves, because the devil has his people, and this earth is a big battle of the devil people versus God people, right? And you people be looking into the church and to the religions for God people. No, God people are those people who doesn't even know, who doesn't even worship a God, right? Because remember, there's good and evil energy and forces. And the thing is, there's always a thin line between every opposition, the highs and the lows, the good from the bad. There's always a thin line that makes it difficult for most people to know who is really bad from who is really good. While also there are corrupted evil people, the devil's people, who they know who to align themselves with. They know the celebrities who they should align with and who they should celebrate and cheer for, right? Because evil attracted to evil. The devil's people are attracted to the devil's people. Now, God people, if you want to know God people, just try to know God characteristics. And remember that God is a man who is mighty in battle, right? God people are mighty in battle. And remember that there's always a thin line, because we had Hitler who believed and who we were taught was mighty in battle, right? With his large army, right? However, that is the thin line. Like Hitler represented the devil, right? I believe, because we can be taught wrong, you know what I mean? But let's use him as a good example, um, as the devil, right? Because what I've read also about Hitler, I've read a lot about Hitler that the system would never teaches. You know what I mean? Because I've read books that talk about Hitler creating people. You know what I'm saying? He worked on creating people, whether generically modified them or the embryos and cell, and I've read that Hitler even have spaceship and all those things working on. You know what I mean? Because Hitler knew a lot of secrets about the world. Because with such power, you're going to know a lot that is hidden. You see what I'm saying? So Hitler, I believe, was very evil. He's a worker of the devil, right? But yet still, it's also similar with Hitler and a man of God, right? And we're not talking about people in church because the church people are here to deceive you. You know, what I mean, there are good people in the church, but don't really look in the church or in any religious organization for the true representative of God or the true people that God loves. Because whether or not you identify God, you can be a God person and you just not know it. You just may not know it at the time. You have people that God uses that they don't even believe in God, but their characteristics, because the thing is, and that makes the thin line in everything. Because the thing is, people we all came in this world and we were taught about what God is, who God is. So a lot of people, you'll have people that don't believe the lesson that they're getting, so they try to stay neutral and try to stay far from believing in God. And because God is not like most of you stupid people who believe that because I don't believe that there is a God, then God doesn't like that person. No, it's not like that. God understands. God have a mind that understanding. That is why he allows even the wicked of wickedest people to live another life, to wake up. The murderers will unalive 10, 20, 100 people, and God still allow them to wake up tomorrow. Because God doesn't see things from eyes like us, like ours, right? God is the most intelligent being, supreme being. He's the greatest scientist, right? Because all of this were created from God with science and through science, right? But it's just that God level of science and understanding science is way advanced than what any man can really understand. But I'm sure God is impressed with a lot of our scientists and, with the drive and what people are able to understand and how far we've come as mankind to building so much things. And you know what I'm saying? So yeah, so let's get to this 50 Cent thing. So I had to run through all of that to let y'all know. Beware of the thin line and which celebrities are really represented by God. First of all, 50 truly represented by God, right? And I strongly believe that, and I've been studying these things for many decades, like probably the second, going third decade now, right? I've been studying the whole universe, signs and wonders from I was a child, really. You know what I'm saying? Like I would love to lock up in my house with my mom when rain was falling, and I would just sit by the window and watch everything outside, with how the rain moves and how it run down on the window and watch everything get wet. And the universe teaches a lot just by looking. And our mind teaches itself, because our mind take every image that our eyes see, it takes every feeling that we felt, it takes every scent we smell, and the mind takes all of that and it functions away. But you have to pay attention to what your mind is thinking up, because our mind works on its own. That's why there's a subconscious and there's a conscious side of the mind. Once you can tap in with the subconscious, then the conscious works in coordin what's the term? It works in a way that they become like one. You know what I mean? Because the subconscious mind is that active mind that never sleep, it never rests. It knows almost everything or way more things than the conscious mind do, right? So if you pay attention more to your subconscious mind and what's it thinking about, then you can become a more powerful person. You can better yourself that way. Become more observant. You know what I'm saying? So with Jim Jones and all these industry players who are fighting against 50 Cent for so many years, they are the devil, right? Now, 50 Cent is similar to Hitler here, and this is the thin line, right? Because when you have the God people, a lot of people always come against God people because there's more devils than there's God people. There's more devil people. The devil is so many of them. I mean, God has so many angels, but there's so many devils that will give charge, to bring their destruction upon earth, right? While the angels, you don't really think much about them, or, you won't hear much about people talking about the angels save them. Yes, people do, but I mean, like, the demonic power is very common out there, more than seeing a miracle take place, is what I'm trying to say. So the similarity with Hitler, many have came against Hitler, right? But a lot was scared to even say anything to Hitler. And that is the difference there. Nothing what I'm saying is written down. I'm just being used by the universe to let out all this, okay? Nothing is scripted, nothing. This is the things I've been teaching, right? So the thing is, everyone was scared to really challenge Hitler, or whenever it's a devil person in big power like that, right? And we see 50 Cent in big power. You see how the universe work? 50 Cent have a movie named Power, and this isn't planned or scripted, that I said, right? We just mentioned Hitler and his power, and we're talking about 50 comparing him with Hitler, and 50 has a movie named Power, right? This is how the universe work and align things for you to understand, right? Now watch the difference with the power. The thing is, when you have good people like 50 Cent, right? And why is 50 Cent good? Let us see some characteristics of 50 Cent. 50 Cent made a lot of people wealthy. He makes them eat, right? Tony Yayo is grateful. Uncle Murder, you know what I'm saying? We've seen 50 Cent and his boys falling out a place like the Young Buck, and, those things are natural. Jesus and his friends even had their differences. Jesus was betrayed by his disciple. So, and that was what I should also have said in the beginning when I told you that most of the combative arguments and disagreement, fights, war, all the you know trading of hateful comments, right? Most of the time, it's the devil people versus God people, because that is what this world is about. It's the good versus the bad. God people against the devil's people. And God people is not those church people all the time. God people is within the church, but rarely. Okay, rarely. Because the church is about making money and to promote the white God more than anything else, right? And black people, for one, they shouldn't really just take up this Jesus name, because this Jesus was given to us from our white slave master. And the fact that many black people will continue to say Jesus it's just mind-boggling. However, we know that it's a system type of thing, and that is the biggest enemy within the earth here, like the religious thing. You know what I mean? You have to try to study the earth for yourself. Try to unlearn what you have learned. We hear people say this all the time, and it's true. Sometimes you need to learn from your own, because, as I told you, our subconscious mind is always working. It's always working in benefit of our safety. That's why sometimes you feel like you get a feeling not to step there, not to walk there, because your subconscious mind already knows what's going on. It study so many things, but you just got to try to tap into it, learn to tap into it, and you can see the evil ones from the good ones. Now, Jim Jones is an evil one. Everyone in the industry up against 50 is evil, right? Just as I said, similar with Hitler. But when someone evil is in power, you won't see so much people target to bring them down. When there's an evil person in power like Hitler, people would rather to join with them, right? But the fact that 50 is a good motherfucker, the fact that 50 is a good man who is a god man, a lot of people try to cluster up and come against them. And this is what I talked about in the video I uploaded about 50 Cent and T.I.'s son disrespecting 50 and 50 Cent mother who had passed, right? Because we all know King is a demon. Look at him. He looks like a fish that should be in water. You know what I mean? Like a fish out of water. So T.I., all these boys on the podcast, and I'm so disappointed with Fabulous, because Fabulous is a good soul, but he is just being led by the evil friends he has. And that is what I was telling you earlier in this video as well, that sometimes the good people, they just don't know it yet, right? Sometimes the good people, they need time to wise up, to take themselves away from the bad circle and the energy they're around, So you have to know, Fabulous is a good soul, but because of the person who he has clicked with, why he is against 50. But 50 is also a good soul, God person, right? That's one of God's soldiers. And similar to 50 Cent, is just as how here in Jamaica, we have Vibes Cartel, who the entire business is against. But why? Because Vibes Cartel came in the industry the year 2002. And when he came in the industry 2002, that is when Vibes Cartel started his career, and he blew up. Now he is more successful than them, and they're all hating. And this is how you know Vibes Cartel. They will say things like Vibes Cartel sell his soul to make you think that it's because he sell his soul why Vibes Cartel is more successful than them, right? But it's really because they're lazy. And the Bible tell you that Jah don't like nobody lazy. Even Cartel says it. Jah don't like nobody we lazy. Because you see, God people, they always work hard. That is one of God characteristic from when you first read the Bible. That on the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth day, God worked. And on the seventh day, he rest. Okay? So God people will always be putting in the work. Which one of these MFKRs been working as hard as 50? 50 has been working so hard ever since he had gained the success in the music. Same with Vibes Cartel here. Vibes Cartel have been working hard, out leading all his other yeah, folks. So, with that being said, you have to watch their characteristics. Who work the hardest? You know what I mean? Because God is a hard-working person, and the Bible tell you that John don't like nobody that lazy. So, if you're lazy, you're not of the Lord image or likeness. You know what I mean? Because remember, the universe is showing me that um, Eve is what put the word Eve in evil, right? The word evil derived from Eve, right? And remember what Eve did. Okay? Um, the thing is, the thing is, right? What one of the things I've been teaching also, because we need to get into this video, some Jamaican audience and a lot of y'all who wants more insight on how to know which celebrity. Okay, so a lot of fans, they are evil, they are of the devil. So they will support the bad guys, the evil guys who are of the devil, right? Because evil from the garden of Eden, right? It has always been God's children and against the Satan children, right? Because a lot of people believe that Abel, who had died from Cain attack, right? Abel was clean and pure in heart and was designed by God. Because Adam and Eve was designed by God. But Adam and Eve had Abel, right? And a lot of people believe that Cain was the devil's son, the devil who tricked Eve, right? So when Eve got that son, Cain, I don't know which one is older though. I think Cain was the first. I think Cain is the older brother. So maybe something there. However, we do understand that Cain is also the evil one, right? Abel was the good one. Abel died, right? And then God still had love for Cain, right? And God protect Cain because that's just how God is. He knows that he still have that goodness. So I guess the fact that Cain is coming from Eve, there is some good in Cain while there's some bad as well because he murdered his brother, right? From jealousy. And that is why we've seen for years our Jamaican news broadcast been saying things like, just put it down no faith, man. I can't stop this. Please. So anyway, um, anyway, what happened is that Cain, you have to understand, Cain, I get through off, how may I say? Um, So yeah, so Cain, right? Cain had some good in him. The fact that he's coming from Eve, right? The fact that he's coming from Eve, which was clean and pure, even though she had messed up when she got tricked and deceived. So that's where the evil birthed, right? So probably Cain had shared both good and evil spirit. So when Cain produced and multiplied on earth, some of his offspring became good while some became evil. And probably some had both battling with. That's why a lot of us battle with our own demons. You get what I'm saying? So the thing is, you need to know how to separate that thin line to know if you're, because you see a lot of fans are clean fans, good-hearted fans, fans that are of God. You know what I mean? Fans that are God people. God be watching over you. And that is why there's people who they get so many hates from in their workplace because this thing goes all the way wide across the board, from in the workplace to in the Hollywood celebrity, in the fame, in there's always God people up there. And you see, God will never flood the mainstream level because you have the underground level where the artists and the actors, all those people who are trying to make it big in life. You have the underground and you have the mainstream. But God won't put much of his people in mainstream because the mainstream is really run by the devil. And once good people go to mainstream, it's like it clouds the fans' judgment because the mainstream, it has to run away. Like they don't want you to just bring anyone in. They like to keep a gatekeeping thing about the mainstream where they have this big gate to block out anyone who they don't feel or appreciate to have to enter in the mainstream. Like you've seen a lot of artists doing a lot of songs, fans love their music or their movies or their sporting activity, but mainstream just won't accept them. But God, they can't stop God, one person. God will make sure that one talented person get to mainstream that all these devils will hate. And that is 50 Cent. God plays 50 Cent in the mainstream of all mainstream. Maybe Jay-Z is the evil one who has all the powers because, as I said, the mainstream, in order to make it in mainstream and be a favorable in the mainstream, it seems as if you have to sneak a lot of your friends going up. Because most of the people successful in the mainstream area, they are normally betrayal. Like we have continuously talked about Popcorn and Black Rhino here in Jamaica. Like Popcorn was Black Rhino was first signed by Vibes Cartel, and Black Rhino is short. He was doing so well, people love him so much, right? And Black Rhino is a God youth. He's represented by God, whether or not he knows it or not, right? But the evil energy force and the evil side of the energy had to had to produce popcorn because that is what the evil and the devil do. Whenever there's a good soul meeting success, out of nowhere, the devil sends someone to get them out. And that is how popcorn came in play. And how do I know this? Because every arch enemy have some similarities. Popcorn came in the Gaza and was signed, Vibes Cartel signed popcorn like um a few years or probably 2 years the most after he had signed Black Rhino first in 2006. You get what I'm saying? Probably Popcorn came along after probably 3-4 years after. I would think about three the most, right? So probably 2009 Popcorn came along. Probably somewhere around there. I'm not sure really, like to remember the year right now, right? Because I've been talking for too long. This is like 27 minutes of talking, right? Because this is very important for y'all to understand. So Popcorn was sent by the evil force, and he was the one like solely responsible that got out Black Rhino. You know what I mean? Because remember, they look alike. This is how the universe work, and how your arch enemy, how the devil work against God people, and even God work against the devil too. Like the good side of the universe works against the bad side of the universe, because you'll have a bad person like Footer Hype, who loves to bring down people, the same people who makes him able to leave the gully where he was born and raised, right? The same people who took Footer Hype out of the gully. Go look up Footer Hype for those who doesn't know him, right? The same Bounty Killer, the same people in the music who had helped this fat shit gut marker, MFKR, Footer Hype, right? The same people who made him success in life right now, able to live abroad and travel. The same people who had helped him, he bring them down. Now that is a character of the devil. You get what I'm saying? Because these people never said anything about Footer Hype, and that is what you have to look on. He just came out and he just started to, disrespect them because he doesn't like what they're doing, but he's just jealous, just as how Cain was jealous of Abel. And this is why we see Footer Hype as one of the main target who keeps on calling up Vibes Cartel name. And Vibes Cartel never once seen them guys or mention his name. The last time Vibes Cartel mentioned Footer Hype's name was in a song 2013, and Vibes Cartel was actually speaking good about him in his song, right? In a song called Miami Vice, right? Going for the hype life, up in the sky like. So Cartel really was shouting out to this guy, but while Vibes Cartel was suffering behind the bars, Footer Hype out of nowhere just came out because the thing is, Footer Hype and Movado, are close companions. And because Vibes Cartel dust out Movado and Vibes Cartel went to prison running the music while Movado just decay and vanish away like silver and gold and had nothing more to say, while the man who is suffering behind the bars still more influence, impactful and working hard, stay putting out music that keeps on selling, even his fever. And this is why God had to give him a goal. I'm telling you. You get what I'm saying? So Vibes Cartel is the God is represented by God, right? And this is how Footer Hype, the friend of Movado, right, who just start hating on Vibes Cartel. This is how you know. You have to trace the beginning, trace the, follow where the path is coming from. Know your past to know the future, right? So because we know the past, we know Footer Hype I got hell, right? Movado isn't like Footer Hype. Because even Footer Hype disrespected Movado all these years, and Movado haven't paid him any mind. So this guy who was assisted by these people who collected a lot of money, earned a lot from these people. Bounty Killer, Footer Hype even tried to curse out Bounty and a lot of others, even though Bounty did mention Footer Hype name, but that still should give no reason for you to say the meaningful things about Bounty, saying his son is gay and his gay blood is in Bounty and you were his friend. You know what I'm saying? So similar to 50 Cent, he has all these industry players coming against him because they're hateful, they're jealous, right? 50 has the power, just like how Vibes Cartel has the power also. So those two, 50 Cent and Vibes Cartel, and they came out similarly at the same time. That is how God works and the universe. You understand? And you have people who are on the evil side who transform to good too a lot of times, right? So that is why there's a thin line. You have people who were evil who finally decided to stop doing evil and start being good. And that is the thing with God, why God allows everyone to wake up even after committing such atrocities, right? And that is why our great grandparents and our grandparents would usually say, what is not dead, do not throw it away. Once something or someone is still alive, you keep them alive and preserve them, right? The fact that they're not dead, the fact that God hasn't killed them or removed them, that means we should not really forsake them. Or not really say forsake, it's probably the wrong term, but we shouldn't like to just give up on them or believe that they should die, you know what I'm saying? So I hope y'all get enough of what I'm saying. But these MFKRs in the business like Jim Jones or T.I., all these MFKRs coming against 50, they are playing checkers while 50 is playing chess. And we're going to show you that right about now. Look at this.
Jim Jones and his podcast co-host went after 50 Cent's documentary work on air. And 50
So I hope y'all Jamaican can understand the accent of the narrator in this video, because the narrator is like foreigner, right? American. It's American English. So he's saying that, Jim Jones, a lot of things is going on, right? But I'm going to repeat some of what he says and I'm going to, review it and let y'all understand clearly.
Cent's affiliates made them pay for it.
Right now, he owes, and I'm going to say it in a short way.
Okay, so all you're seeing here is just the opening part of the video. You don't have to really understand what is being going on in this. This is just to capture the audience, right? So all of this will be played back in the middle of the video, all right?
At least 80,000, if not 180,000.
Okay, so what they're talking about there is that so Jim Jones had a building where he usually held his podcasts, right? And it's not just Jim Jones, it's Jim Jones amongst other rappers, and they would invite other rappers and they would all tear down 50. And these people that Jim Jones would invite to the podcast, they were all 50 Cent haters, which is why 50 Cent now made a move, right? So the building where Jim Jones and all the 50 Cent haters conduct their podcast trying to bring down 50, right? They owed like almost 100K for renting that spot there where they held their podcast, right? Anyway, 50 found out that the landlord having problem with Jim Jones to pay, and Jim Jones is using some gangsterism on this landlord, why he doesn't want to pay and getting away like it's his place, and he think this old MFKR named Jim Jones is trying to bully an elder person, right? for their place, and he is supposed to have money. So why hasn't he paid them? And then he's working amongst other rappers in that same building, in that facility, carrying out his podcast and failed to pay the landlord, right? Of almost 100K, right? The first report was that Jim Jones owed his landlord 180K, but she had came out and telling 50 because 50 had gotten involved and 50 had paid the money to the landlord, and 50 becomes the owner of that space now. So Jim Jones can't enter the building again. This is the chess move that 50 played against them. When they're holding podcasts to bring down 50 and his guys, right? 50 Cent go and purchase. 50 Cent paid all those back taxes and gain the privilege of being the rightful tenant to hold that, to own that space there in the building. So Jim Jones and all his boys were locked out. And you'll see later in the video how Jim Jones entered the building and tried to kick off the doors. He actually kicked off one of the doors, but because they are solid, he actually hurt himself in the video. Right? He's so dumb. And this is the devil's people. They do dumb stuff like that. There's cameras. The cameras picked him up. God people are always clean slate. You won't see God people doing shit like that. You will never see Vibes Cartel going out of character, trying to kick off some and acting up. Vibes Cartel is always cool, calm, and collective. And that is why Vibes Cartel could have sang the song that we kill them softly like R&B. We have drive out the war and we load the extension. You know what I'm saying? So him kill them softly like R&B. And that is how 50 Cent be killing them while they be acting up. And this is how you know God's people from the devil's people. The devil's people, they're like wasps when they're attacking. They just annoy and they are just like busy attacking. But the bees only attack when it feels threatened. The wasp doesn't have to have any threat to attack you. You get what I'm saying? So this is how the evil people work, like the Jim Jones, they're the wasp, 50 Cent and his boys, like the Tony Yayo and Uncle Murder, even Lloyd Banks, even though 50 and Lloyd Banks had their differences, and the Young Buck, but they're all cool. The G Unit Squad, they represent the God, the gangster, the Gaza, and the Gully, like Movado and Vibes Cartel. The G Unit, the G goes a far way. I know a lot of y'all gonna say it's gay, but the G Unit is for gangster and the girl execute that gay shit that you're trying to stick, right? The girls is on 50's side, the geography, the whole entire place, all the G's, the geometry, you guys can size up, In order for them to challenge 50, they would need like Netflix to work with them, and all of them attacking 50 over this documentary that 50 got with Netflix, a documentary deal that 50 put out with the documentary 50 put out on Netflix about Sean P. Diddy Combs, right? And these guys, the evil people, are defending Sean P. Diddy Combs, right? Jim Jones and all of them, right? I'm so upset with Fabulous. Let's get into this.
What followed was not a diss track or a social media argument. It was a landlord partnership, leaked eviction footage.
See it? The landlord leak eviction footage, right? Because 50 and the landlord had bonded, and that is how 50 get to work. He finds out his enemy's weakness and he improvise, capitalize, and initially, going for the kill like a hawk, right? Now, Jim Jones is looking like the fool, and now some fans be hating on 50 for it, while they were using their platform and using this building space to tear down 50.
And a coordinated campaign that left Jones locked out of his own studio. This is how 50 Cent's affiliates smacked Jim Jones after he came for G Unit. Part 1, the podcast that started it all on February 19th, 2026. Security footage surfaced online showing Jim Jones kicking in a locked door.
There you go. That's Jim Jones there kicking in the latch door. And he's going to hurt himself. This is the first door that he kicked in, but you'll see other videos of him kicking in other doors, right? Because he completely locked out. 50 Cent owned their building now.
At his own podcast studio after the power had been cut and the locks had been changed.
You see that? They cut the power so they can't go in there and operate. Nothing. So right now, Jim Jones is just going there to cause more damage that he has to pay for, right? If he gets sued, he's stupid. And that is what God people have over these evil people. Intelligence. 50 would never create more damages like that and catch him getting his boys to kick in door that he got to pay for. That's dumb. You know what I'm saying? Because this is America. Gambino, big up yourself. This is America. You gotta pay for those things. Worse when it's recorded and on camera. That's evidence. That's proof.
Footage was not leaked by a stranger. It was posted by 50 Cent, who had partnered with the building's landlord and claimed ownership of.
So while Jim Jones and his entire syndicate of music players, rappers, and industry players on their podcast trying to bring down 50, 50 was working behind the scene, hooking up with their landlord, and found out that they owed a lot. So 50 paid it, and now 50 owns the landlord. That landlord loves 50 Cent like they're best friends now. That's how you fight. Success is the best revenge.
The property. In the days that followed, 50's affiliates, his business connections, the landlord himself, and
so that's the landlord you just saw. But now this is Cameron. He's a rapper. I don't think Cameron talked bad about 50. Cameron is a good soul. Cameron and Mace. I remember when Cameron had got his big break in the music, like around in the early 2000s. He loved wearing pink, and you could still see the pink on his tie and in his pocket there on his handkerchief. So he was a big sensational rapper with this. Oh boy, him and Jules Santana's, but they're good souls. These are good rappers, and now they're doing podcasts and all these reports on, uh, um, on sports and celebrity rumors, gossip, and whatever. You know what I'm saying? And this is what I've been talking about from the other day. That even Spice, or queen of the dance hall here in Jamaica, Spice, she's been working so hard for so long. I mean, she still can do her music, but I think it's good if she work hard on developing her podcast and try to take Oprah's place. Because when you're doing something, you want to be the very best. You want to be at the very top. So don't think that because Oprah have been doing sit down and hosting her talk show for so many years, like someone can come do better. You know what I'm saying? You got to tell yourself. You got to try to go as hard. You know what I mean? And Spice, the music, being an artist, takes way more energy than the podcast thing. I'm sure about that, because being an artist, you got to travel, tour, you got to perform all these time, interviews, wake up early. I mean, it's tired. It's a tired, like, less work where you're tired right through. It's serious. So I think Spice should work on doing her podcast more serious and still can drop her music, like, yeah.
even Cameron, Jones' own former Dipset teammate, all piled on. They posted eviction documents. They shared phone recordings.
Okay, so they're saying that Cameron, who I told you was a good guy, he's of God, he won't ever diss 50. And I mean, that doesn't mean that him and 50 never had their fair share of differences. But, good people and good people, God people and God people clash sometime from misunderstanding and other situation, you know what I mean? Because misunderstanding can go a very long way. So not every time when you see two persons clashing in an argument, it's good versus evil. No, sometimes it's good versus good. And sometimes good people sometimes can allow their ego to lead them for them to end up in a wrong sometime. Or to bully others too. You know what I mean? A lot of times when I know I'm stronger than some people who are messing around, like I have to fight myself, like tell myself, no, don't go out and fight this guy. Because there's other bullies that had come at me and I never try to punch them or fight them. So I don't think it's fair for me to go and fight with a weaker guy who I'm sure or feel so confident I could defeat. And that is what people do. They pick on weak fence. They won't ever try to defend themselves against some monstrous looking guy. But when some weak looking guy come and talking shit to them, they're quick to dismantle that weaker guy. And to me, that's just your ego leading you, because you'd never do that to the big guy who is messing around. And that is how deep I look at things before I get involved. And my friends may say, oh, you're a punk because you make this little tweeny guy talk to you like that. But I know I could easily destroy him. I like a challenge, you know what I mean? And now is not the time to fight and those things, because, we're growing older, we're going up in age. Now is the time to secure our bones and our body and to the best of our ability. Only young people should fight. I believe that fighting is for young people. Yeah, go break your bones, go break your fist. I had fought and I had damaged this in the year 2006. I was in a fight and I punched a guy in the back of his head so many times that I hurt this bone here, right? And even up to this day, if I'm to punch someone again, I'm going to feel that feeling, right? My hands swollen for 6 months in 2006 from that fight. and I had busted the guy head was big. It was a big fat guy that I had fought, and he was my friend. But because my other friends was, provoking him, saying that I went to his countryside of Jamaica, and got all the girls in his place, and he never got any, right? So we came back to our place, and all our friends mocked him, saying that the bigger girls man, and you know what I mean. So he hated me when I wasn't the one troubling him, but for some reason, people stay. They're gonna envy me being the one getting all the praise. So that's what caused the fight. I was actually looking out for him at the time because the boss had came over where we were working, and I went to wake him up, even though I knew he wasn't much into me anymore, because from we went to his side of the country here in Jamaica, and came back to the Kingston area, and they started to mock him, saying that I was the one who, got some girls down there, and he never got any girl in his own place, right? But he hasn't been there in a long time, but it was my first time there. So it was crazy. And because I was waking him, looking out for him, because I never wanted the boss to come catch him sleeping. And he didn't like the fact that I wake him up. So he attacked me away, and I had to fight him, and I slipped behind him and punch him up in his head, the back of his head. And soul in my hand, it was damaged for like 6 months, swollen, serious, and I never went to the doctor. I allowed it to heal on its own. I never up to this day, I don't like going to the doctor. I'll even break a leg, broke a toe, bone, and I would try to heal it myself. That's how I am at. Let's get back into this.
Mocked Jones for not being able to afford heat. The smack was not physical. It was financial, public, and coordinated, and it did not come out of nowhere. The whole thing started with a podcast episode 2 months earlier, and a conversation about...
Okay, so 2 months earlier from now, that's when Jim Jones was on his podcast talking shit, That's when the podcast started, up until they disrespected 50.
Documentaries that 50 Cent took very personally. In December 2025, Jim Jones sat down with Mino, Fabulous, and Dave East.
Yeah, Mano, he disappointed me too. Mano was actually the one who interviewed Vybz Kartel with Angela Yee when Vybz Kartel came out of prison in 2024. So that's Mano. For the Jamaicans who don't familiar with Mano name, he was on the Angela Yee interview with Vybz Kartel, right? So if you want to see who Mano is, for my Jamaican fans and those who doesn't know from who Mano is, go and look to Vybz Kartel interview with Angela Yee, and you'll see Mano on the same show.
On their podcast, Let's Rap About It. The topic drifted toward documentary, whether it was acceptable for someone to make one about another person without that person's approval. Dave East posed the question. The answers that followed are what lit the fuse.
So this is the podcast, and this is what Jim Jones and his boys of industry players had commenting on. And this was in December, right? When they had this podcast here, when they had mentioned 50 name and tearing him down. So this is what caused 50 to make his chess move while these dudes were playing checkers.
Is it acceptable for someone to create a documentary about you without your approval? How would you feel if it happened to you?
The room.
So all of this was because of 50 Cent releasing the P. Diddy documentary on Netflix. And 50 made a good little change from it. Like, probably, you're going to hear, maybe they talk about how much 50 made. Because I remember on the podcast here what Jim Jones held with his 50 Cent G-Unit haters, they had talked about the money and the earnings 50 Cent made from the P. Diddy documentary. But they were talking about it and make it seem as if 50 was glorifying how much he made off that Netflix deal, giving them the P. Diddy documentary to broadcast on Netflix, right? So they were saying, 50 just got 3 million US for the P. Diddy documentary, and he's out here acting as if he got 50 million US. So that's how they were talking, like hateful. I mean, even if it's 3 million US for that short P. Diddy 4-series documentary, was like 4 episodes. You get me? I've watched all of it. And now we've heard in a new news, there's a new news that came out. News. Let's just say news. Because news is new that's pluralized. So saying new news is like paradoxical, highly. So, therefore, it's like there's this news now surfacing saying that Netflix had removed one of those episodes right? Because it's 4 episode, not series, 4 episode, I believe. I've watched it over a month ago now, I believe. So I'm not sure if my memory served me correct. I remember distinctively it was 4 episode, right? To the Diddy documentary on Netflix. And now news surfacing that they had to remove one because of all these naysayers and you know what I'm saying? So 50 did the right thing by taking over their apartment or the building that they were functioning and you know, just to let y'all understand what's going on.
Agreed immediately. Jim Jones called it facetious and petty, and Mino compared it to putting out someone's.
Okay, so they're saying Jim Jones saying that 50 Cent putting out P. Diddy's documentary on Netflix is petty. But you see, when 50 get real petty, how he took over their building. And then the last thing they said was that Mano was about to say, they were about to say, the narrator was about to say that Mano, the guy who was telling you about on the Angela Yee interview with Vibes Cartel since he's released from prison, there the narrator was just saying that that same Mano guy also made talks about 50 Cent putting out a P. Diddy documentary on Netflix is similar to someone putting out someone's sex tape. You know what I'm saying? And like benefiting from it financially. But I mean, not really, not really. A documentary is different. There's a reason why it's called a documentary and not a sex tape. So that's different. Because me putting out a documentary about someone who I looked up to or someone who I used to look up to and regretted, it's different from just putting out a sex tape. Come on. So this is why 50 Cent had to do, and I'm in full agreement with 50 here for doing what he do. Even though Mano is my guy, because he highly respect Vibes Cartel. So I'm highly disappointed with Fabulous being a part of this tearing down 50 Cent G-Unit camp. And I'm highly disappointed with Mano as well. Because these are two guys who I considered as good souls being of God, right? And that is why the mainstream doesn't really like Fabulous, believe me. But they will act as if they like Fabulous when they want him to tear down 50. That is not the group for Fabulous. Fabulous is so talented, so smooth. He should be hanging with 50 Cent because 50 is a smooth criminal like Michael Jackson. How 50 just swoop in and take. 50 knows and understand the art of war. From day one, he has been displaying that. So for anyone to attack 50 Cent and Vibes Cartel are fools because they're way brilliant than the rest. Vibes Cartel gives the best interview, answer the questions properly, better than any of our past artists before and after him. You get me? And we have interviewers here in Jamaica over the years who kill these artists on their interview by using big words the artists don't understand. And these artists are so dumb that they're so afraid to say, what does that term mean? They rather to answer as if they know what it means or say something stupid that makes them look stupid. You know what I'm saying?
Tape without consent.
It's like definitely not acceptable. It's facetious and petty.
Right. It's like somebody putting out your tape. And the criticism kept going. The hosts zero.
So the guy saying that it's someone putting out your sex tape, that's the main old guy that was on the Angela Yee.
In on the idea that someone would put unflattering footage out into the world without caring how it looked.
Without your permission, and you're not an actual porno star. And they do it. The lighting wasn't good.
So that's Mano right here. You're seeing in the jeans jacket and the suit, the jean suit, and the tam on his head. You know, they call it another name, that hat. You know, there's many names for it in different part of America and in the foreign countries, as well as for Jamaica, right? But here in Jamaica, we call that tam on Mano's head. I loved them when I was in Canada. I loved having them, especially the New York one. I remember the New York one was very popular in Canada. Can you imagine that? The NY tam here that Mano has on his head. The one with the NY that represent New York, that was one of the most popular ones in Canada when I was over there. You get what I'm saying? Everyone wanted the New York one in my school. Yeah, like fashion, but I've outgrown all these fashion. I'm not a lot of these American superstar, big grown ass man. They're so fancy over clothes and these name brand thing. I've outgrown it, and maybe because I've grown poor, why I just think not much of these fancy clothes. But I'm sure if I was wealthy tomorrow, as Vibes Cartel is, as wealthy as a Vibes Cartel or some of these cats or guys you're seeing over here, in America. If I'm to get wealthy as they are, I don't think I'll take my money and invest so much in the most expensive clothes. Like I would still wear I'll still go in some regular store and buy most of my clothes, you know, and I will still have family and friends who would be giving me clothes as well, because that's how life is. People gives you things on Christmas, whatever. Even days, regular days, people just carry a shirt. A girl who likes you or a friend say, "Yo, I want you to have this shirt or this jacket or this shoes." You know what I'm saying? So those are the things I value. Not these Louis V's and all these, you know what I'm saying? But if Louis V is paying me to promote them, then hell, I'm wearing that and I'm promoting it. Yeah, for sure. Because it's business. That's different, you know? And I think all of these wealthy guys should, or once you're wealthy, whether guy or female, you should have your own clothesline. Big up to Spice for Grassy Nor. Make sure y'all buy her Grassy Nor clothes. You know what I'm saying? And the same, no, we're not give him no thing there. But I give one of the guys that haters them a bust to her and telling them for buy them garments too. But no, because you see, even when you help, that's why you're not supposed to help the evil people. You're not supposed to help them when it comes to like making them gain any power, because if they're already trying to tear you down, why give them strength? They're gonna continue to tear you down. But then a lot of good people, they are not smart enough because they think that doing good all the time is going to reward them. But no, because you cannot be a fool, and there's a thin line with being good and being a fool, right? And that is why the Bible even tells you that a fool and their money shall depart. You get what I'm saying? Yes, because you have to do what is right, not how you feel and not what you think, but what is right. So you don't help a evil person thinking that you're going to get rewarded by God, and this evil person is evil. You're only helping them to bring you back down. You know what I'm saying?
The implication was not subtle. The group was not speaking in hypotheticals, or if they were, the timing told a different story. 50 Cent had just released Sean Combs' The Reckoning, a Netflix documentary series exploring allegations against the rapper. The Let's Rap About It crew saw it as exploitative. They called it a mockumentary. They questioned the motives behind it and framed the entire project as someone trying to weaponize a camera against someone else. The hosts escalated their
You see it? They're trying to weaponize their podcast, to bring down 50. That's what 50 saw and realized. Anyone who goes or mention 50 in a bad light, 50 is getting on their ass. Just as how 50 posted T.I.'s wife in that golden padded panty looking thing, like she had on Pampers. And a lot of these American guys and gals, I don't think they mature really. Because it's hard for them to mature too, because when you're in a society where fancy all these jewelries. Like I won't ever sport some big ass chain around my neck, but that's how I was when I was in Canada. You know what I'm saying? Living a good life, a better life than what I had to came back to live. I fancy those things too, but I'm glad that God had humbled me through being poor and had to go through many suffering and endure a lot of things. You know what I'm saying? So for me, looking through my eyes, seeing these guys in these chains and these bling blings and many big things that, it doesn't profit them anything but for people to just say some stuff. And those are the people who value seeing silver and gold. But we've been learned and taught that silver and gold will vanish away. But what is here to stay is what is more important. Why we still talk about Bob and crown him king of reggae. We're seeing some new generation people want to say that Buju is the king of reggae, or some other artists like Garnet Silk and others, and that's just highly disrespectful. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So there won't ever be any more reggae king apart from Bob Marley, just as there won't be another king after Vibes Cartel, the king of dancehall, because to to do what Vibes Cartel do is basically impossible. Basically impossible. And that is why we call him Christ Cartel. Because he done the impossible. He prophesy a lot of things. He has been singing many songs saying that he gets charged for 30 years to life, and he beat the case. He has like 3 songs before he was actually charged and got sentenced for 35 or 30 years. You know what I'm saying? So he has prophesied many things. So it's very powerful. And that shows the nature of God, the image and likeness.
displeasure with pointed language, making it clear that they saw something deeply wrong with the concept of making someone look bad through a documentary they did not authorize.
Okay, so yeah, that's P Diddy. But I want to point out also this because we have to try. I like to be fair and honest, and this is a bit difficult on my side, but I have to talk about it because with 50 now, Irv Gotti, who had died. Irv Gotti is Ja Rule's producer, manager, I believe, also. And Irv Gotti had passed like 2 years ago or so, and 50 Cent celebrated his death because that's one of 50 Cent's biggest enemy and rival. He tried to shut 50 Cent out of the business, and this goes to show you that God children will always be the winner. Now we need to see 50 outlive Ja Rule, even though he doesn't have to. He doesn't have to because now Ja Rule is more in pain than 50 Cent. 50 Cent and Tony Yayo, Uncle Murder, they're definitely on the winning side. And that is why we've seen it resulted with Ja Rule throwing a temper tantrum on the plane the other day, right? Getting frustrated. And whether or not you want to say he decided to left or he was kicked off, it seems as if he was kicked off. And even if he wasn't kicked off, it's embarrassing on his part because he actually went there and sit before his enemies. And that's goofy. You can't go. That's goofy. You should have told the flight attendant that, yo, I ain't sitting there. Best if I sit beside them. But you don't sit in front of your enemy and turn your back to them. That shows that Ja Rule isn't ready for this world. And this world, it's called Earth. You're here to get Earth. Okay? You're here to get hurt. And Ja Rule was definitely hurt on that flight. Shout out to Tony Yayo. They're the winners. Uncle Murder. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, G Unit, Gorilla Squad.
Trying to make you just
Make it a habit. 7 minutes of Tai Chi every morning, all the way for 1 month.
They did not authorize.
trying to make you just
I forgot my premium was up because you guys never seeing these things appear in my video. My premium is up.
look bad. Oh, they caught me on a bad day. I wasn't even on my this they caught a weak one.
The frustration in the room was palpable, and the group leaned deeper into the idea that this kind of exposure was designed to damage someone's public image irreversibly.
Lightning dark. Damn. You see the lightning dark? Gotta be looking small out here. Word up.
Then Jones summed it all up with one line that would set the tone for
So that is Jim Jones in his pink sweater. Even though Cameron was the one I told you that loved wearing pink, but Jim Jones, he claims that he brought his own style to the industry, but I don't know. Like some people agree in the comments of videos that talk about those shit, but I don't know. I can't recall his style that he had brought. I thought he would rock his clothes like what was trendy. But maybe he has a point, definitely, because we like to be fair. And then why I believe he may have a point is because every state or most state has their way of how they dress different from other states, even back then, which was different from now when Jim Jones had came up and got his break in the industry. Back then I believe many states were patterning the rappers who how they dress too. But in the streets always has their own way that the rappers would take from and imitate, copy, and portray. So yeah, so maybe Jim Jones did have a point there, but the universe showing me that he copies people's style altogether like a Shang Tsung, and that's make him his special ability when it comes to having a look. You know what I'm saying? Like he copies from a lot of multiple different style and rock them all together, like Shang Tsung in Mortal Kombat. Your soul is mine, and you think it's no, like you say, come here, and you think it's Scorpion when it's really Shang Tsung.
everything that followed.
But I ain't gonna front. I think if they saluting you, first of all, they want somebody doing a documentary about you.
The idea was simple. A documentary should honor you, not tear you down. Jones drove that point home with conviction.
You wanted to be a dope documentary, showing who you are, what you've done, everything you've accomplished. Like a documentary is a big thing. Like you don't want nobody doing a documentary about someone like trying to just make it.
They're just hating because he's saying a documentary should be a big thing, like because that's how it has always been in the past. Like documentaries normally like 2 hours, an hour and a half, going 2 hours, 3 hours and up. So that is what he believed, like with his whole heads. You know what I'm saying? And because it's the 50 Cent P Diddy documentary was like 4 episodes, they believe he's saying that it's short. You know what I'm saying? However, it was necessary for many who appreciate Netflix. Even Netflix appreciate it. You know what I'm saying? They knew that it would stir up a lot of things, and that is what these guys are here to do. Feed into that energy. They know that it has the potential to, with 50 Cent releasing the P Diddy documentary. This is what the universe is showing me now, that because Netflix was aware of the backlash, it possibly, or the probability was very high to get a lot of backlash for 50 Cent and Netflix coercing in releasing that documentary. But however, Netflix is a big major entity. They're professionals. So when they decide to do something, not saying that it can't work out in the opposite favor for Netflix. Like, you know what I mean? Things can go bad for them as well as them being some big entity. But at least, something about it, why, and that is a plus. Something about it that grabbed the Netflix executive, interest about it. So, and many people, the fans and the viewers, appreciate it as well. A lot of vloggers had fun talking about it, and the comments crazy. But these guys, as I said, the universe showing me that Jim Jones, he also is aware of the potential risks that Netflix putting out may cause, So that is why Jim Jones and his boys here are feeding into that to make it more of a, they're making the possibility of the threat that Netflix may have faced. We're putting it out. They are feeding into that threat to Netflix to, yeah, to cause this big uproar for Netflix to probably have to take it back down, for Netflix to probably get sued by Diddy. So they're actually defending a accused, what Diddy was accused for, to drug and to abuse and all these things. You know what I'm saying? If you're not up to date, I will help you get up to date. I'll do a video about Diddy and all he was accused for, and the 4 years he's facing behind bars, light sentence. A lot of people are saying and believe. So it's funny how these guys are defending P Diddy. You know what I mean? And I think R. Kelly should get some defending too. You know what I'm saying? Because, R. Kelly, I don't know, but I have to do a video of why I said that, and so you guys could understand. I think, I don't know, maybe because I wasn't there, I'd have to listen to what the universe is telling me about R. Kelly. But so far throughout the past with our R. Kelly thing, I've seen him somewhat in a good light. Gail King is the evil one, and she interviewed him in the last. That man cried out his heart. And I'm not saying evil people doesn't cry, but we know Gail King and Oprah is tied to that evil force and that evil energy, right? And the fact that R. Kelly was crying out his heart, she had no compassion for him. And you can't just run and believe everything from naysayers. We know that many people have come against celebrities over the years, Michael Jackson and a lot more, so it's very intricate. But Gail King just feed into the rumors and the speculation and the accusation, which came off as a not so nice sort of demeanor and behavior.
The whole character looked weak, like that's petty behavior.
Now, whether Jones was talking about a documentary or speaking generally, that part is up for debate. Fabulous also chimed in, questioning whether such a project was even legal, touching on concerns about defamation and the unauthorized use of someone's likeness. Mino would later clarify on Instagram that his
Yeah, I think the narrator is AI because it calls Mino, and that is when the creator of these YouTube channel set up AI to narrate their videos. It doesn't pronounce the name right. And this is from the channel Rap Daily. You can follow it. Make sure to follow it. They're very popular, but look out, beware of the title being all cap. Like, this video is titled 50 Cent Gang, they beat up Jim Jones or caught him and beat him up, but it's all cap with his titles. But he brings quality in his videos, and keeps you up to date. But he makes the title more gravitational with lies. But you won't regret watching his videos, despite the title being lies.
Comments were part of a broader discussion about documentaries in general and not a targeted shot at 50. But by then, the damage was done. 50 Cent did not see it as general. He took it personally. And once 50 Cent takes something personally, what follows is never just words. He labeled.
Okay, you hear that? Anytime 50 takes something personally, what follows up is never just words, right? My Twitch be going off. I be going live on Twitch. Leprosy. L_E_P_R_R_O_S_Y. Leprosy.
The entire podcast crew as squatters and bums, alleging they owed up to $250,000 in unpaid rent for the very studio they recorded in. He reposted the clip on Instagram with taunts. He offered.
So this is when 50 got sight of what was going on and decided to do something about it and fix them business theme. Follow up, keep secret theme. Come look how the M16 dream. From the mark of back, say you don't need that. From that, me no seem but tapping eyes gonna need that. Me know your style for run out and run in back, plug out and plug in back. No, what is a sheep that? What about beach? We no need that. Only demon in fear, you know Jesus. Back soon the beavers and no dream that. Dream that. Looking at the Glock and you will find hope. Catch him round the table with a suicide note. Affirmatically, you know, try bro. Just up in your mama like post. I'm like Chrome, shut up him nine dome. Unfeared up him, make him no like road. Yo, go check out that Tommy Lee Dirt Day that ended Massacre, the Mosquito career. And check out Tommy Lee Crown Clown. Check out Tommy Lee Brawling. Calling can I clap it up from morning. From my boy the stealing man. Calm and reach off a trees and farming. Andrew, we are go for them brawling now. Student warning, go for them fast, we not do the long talking now. Go for them brawling. Me and my dogs, we follow our own program. I saw the Spartan strong Hulk Hogan. Trees bigger than Fee 5-4 from PSG. You hear the slogan. I wish for me slow down. Yo, big up Tamil, you know, Sparta, Gaza, Vibes Cartel, One Gaza Nation. 50 Cent, G Unit, Gaza and Gully, link up back. Netflix need to make some deal with Vibes Cartel and this Gully and Gaza thing, you know what I'm saying? Because it's a hell of a thing. Plus, we need a documentary on Vibes Cartel. We need a movie on Vibes Cartel. Netflix, you need to get up to date on what's been taking place here in Jamaica.
To buy the studio outright. He began dismantling the credibility of the people who had just questioned his. Mino fired back with personal insults on Instagram, warning 50 that if it's smoke, it's smoke. By Christmas Day 2025, the Let's Rap About It hosts had fired back with his squatters' rights freestyle.
So 50 had made a post and say, okay, I declare war, you know, in other terms, right? Because you just heard what he said, 50 Cent post. You know, and then Jim Jones was so quick to fire back a post at 50, like he ready for the smoke. You know what I'm saying? But he wasn't prepared. He wasn't ready. He needs some milk. Because 50 got him kicked out of his apartment and he tried to kick off one. He managed to kick off one of the doors, but failed in attempt to kick off the other doors. He injured himself. That's why he failed to kick off the other doors. You could see that his foot started to hurt him.
50 over his own beats, a bold move that accomplished nothing other than giving 50 more ammunition. He was not.
So Jim Jones made a diss record, dissing 50 Cent on his hit record beat, right? On a beat that 50 Cent is known for, you know? So, however, all of these niggas, T.I. went in the studio and made a song dissing 50 Cent, right? But as I told you in the video that I post up with 50 Cent and T.I.'s son Kid that I post up just a day before this, you'll see where I made it clear that they should attack 50 with movie production. They need to get into the movie because 50 is on a higher level than them. And 50 won't come down to their lower level to lower his standard to get on their platform and challenge him. They have to go way up there in the sky to see 50. Just like these guys got to go up in the sky to see Vibes Cartel. You get what I'm saying?
Not done, not by a long shot. What Jones and his co-hosts did not realize was that by questioning 50's documentary, they had opened a door that 50 Cent was about to walk through, lease documents in hand. The Landlord Tapes. The podcast criticism was one thing. What 50 Cent did next was something else entirely. Rather than simply trading bars or firing off Instagram captions, 50 went directly to the source of Jim Jones's studio space, the Landlord.
The landlord. This is the landlord 50 Cent got in contact with. Okay? 50 Cent playing chess while they playing checkers and hopscotch. Hopscotch for ya, hopscotch, digger spot for ya, hopscotch nigga. If your feel is a match ligger, flap la ligger, bounty killer. My daddy, that's Godzilla. Who disrespect the mad zigger, apple catch in a. Feds a fi up a cup still a crash in a them one another. Every boy me go for with the Berita Parabellum. If you get it, goddamn, even on another level. Yes, so you live? Alright, everybody vulnerable, colder than the snowman, equally abominable, horrible, terrible, cross like the devil toe, cross like Tivoli, Royal Meadowbrook, cross like the thing we kill Christ, get sending me, no mercy for me enemy. Tick block, clap quicker, hot mosquito, grab that trigger, trap that nigga, pick him up, bow, hot spot quicker.
He recorded the conversation in a move that fans and commentators would later describe as diabolical. 50 Cent shared an audio clip of a phone call with the owner of the building where Jim Jones and the Let's Rap About It crew had been recorded. The landlord's name was Sam, and Sam had a lot to say about how their business relationship had deteriorated into something contentious and financially unsustainable.
Trying to build it, but he didn't sign the lease. He's like, I don't like these terms. I want like 6 months of build out.
So, that's the landlord you're hearing in the voice message there, talking about the deal he had with Jim Jones and about the space that they had leased or rented, I believe rented Jim Jones.
According to Sam, Jones had been operating inside the building under murky lease terms, demanding extensive build-out concessions and refusing to finalize the agreement that would have formalized everything. The picture that Sam painted was one.
So Jim Jones was being shady with that landlord. And you gotta watch out for tenants like those, Always want to bring problem. And Jim Jones supposed to have money. What's the problem? You broke Jim Jones, boy?
Of a tenant who wanted all the benefits of the space with none of the obligations that came with it. But the financial entanglement went far deeper than rent disputes.
He also has a partnership agreement where half of what he's building now, his media, belongs to us. But he won't tell us how much he's making and doing all these things. So half of the content he's creating, if you want to buy that too, I'll sell you half the company.
So the landlord was not merely a property owner collecting checks. He claimed a contractual stake in the podcast's media output. Half the content Jones was creating allegedly belonged to the building's owner as part of the original arrangement, and Jones, according to Sam, had refused to disclose earnings or cooperate with the terms of that partnership. The lack of transparency had apparently soured the relationship to the point where Sam was willing to sell that stake to a third party, specifically to the man feuding with his own tenant. Sam then offered to sell that media stake to 50 Cent as a sweetener, a detail that reveals just how thoroughly transactional the whole arrangement had become and how little faith Sam had left in the business relationship working out.
He's like insane. To me, it's worth very little to nothing. But if it's out for you, I just throw that in as a sweetener. Okay, so what I'm trying to say is he signed a lease with me.
And then the landlord dropped the number that would dominate headlines for the next week and reshape how people perceive the entire Let's Rap About It operation.
Right now he owes, and I'm going to say in a short way, at least $80,000, if not $180,000.
At least $80,000, possibly as high as $180,000. Other reports would later push that figure to $250,000. Whatever the exact amount, it painted a devastating financial picture of Jones's podcast operation, one that relied on a space its host allegedly could not afford. The irony was suffocating. The same crew that had just sat in that studio questioning 50 Cent's ethics apparently could not pay for the electricity to keep the lights on while they did it.
You see, they couldn't pay for nothing, man. Nothing. They couldn't pay for nothing.
50 Cent did not just listen to this call privately. He posted it publicly. He tagged it. He captioned it with mockery. The message was unmistakable. While Jim Jones and his co-hosts were sitting in the studio questioning 50's documentary ethics, they could not even pay for the chairs they sat in. And for 50, this was not the climax.
You see that? And 50 is way more successful than them. And that is with God people. That's why only a few successful people can make it into heaven, right? Like it's more possible for the camel to go through the eye of a needle and a rich man entering the gates of heaven. That is what it's basically saying. Just a few rich good men will see heaven, not so many rich people. Okay, and we're sure 50 is one of them. Vibes Cartel is one of them. All right, because God only assigned a few of His good warriors to become that successful, and other good people of lower wealth should be servants, right? So there's nothing wrong with being a servant. Yeah, it's just that some people got to be more blessed than some. And we just got to understand that. But a lot of people don't want to take that. Like they want to, they want to compete with, for the cash, for the money, when there's so many wonderful wonders of the earth to be interested in than to just, and it will pays off eventually because once you're doing something sensible, it will eventually bring funds. And we're living in a social media era. So once you're capturing what you're doing and it's interesting, you will become successful for sure over time. You just got to be patient.
It was set up. Reports began circulating that 50 Cent had partnered with or outright purchased the building from Sam, escalating his position from provocateur to property owner. He later posted, "Sam is my partner, I own the joint, now you're gonna fix every door you kick or I'm gonna kick your ass, Jimmy."
So this is what 50 Cent posted, right? So 50 Cent is winning. 50 Cent has the landlord on his side. Like game over, game over. Jim Jones couldn't pay for the seat he was using on the podcast. He couldn't pay for the electricity, nothing. He owed so much money. When do you hear people owe like 200,000 USD on, properties that they're renting and or leasing? Like, come on.
Whether this claim of ownership was fully verified or simply another layer of trolling did not matter. The perception.
Jim Jones should name Drug Jones or Jim Drugs because he's on them drugs, man. He ain't moving like that's no gangster, nothing. Real gangster love to pay off their debt so no one could talk to them in any disrespectful way. That's a real gangster. Real gangster is not the type who abuse people like how you would think a child gangster would do the other kids. No. A grown, mature gangster operates different. You know what I'm saying? He makes sure everyone, like if they are going to go against him, you got to be snaking him because he's going to pay you what he owes. So you can't say or talk to him in any way that he wouldn't like or she wouldn't like because you have some female gangster in the place too over the years.
Was established. 50 Cent was the landlord now, and the footage that followed would be the eviction notice.
50 Cent was the landlord now, and the post that followed would be the eviction notice.
Heard around hip-hop, the eviction footage. On February 19th, 2026, 50 Cent posted something that none of his followers were expecting. It was not a diss track. It was not a meme. It was not even a caption with a clever punchline. It was security camera footage, time-stamped, high definition, and profoundly humiliating. The footage showed...
Yeah, this is what I've been waiting for y'all to see. You got to pay for these destruction of property. Look at him, her injuring himself.
Jim Jones and companions in a hallway outside the podcast studio, identified as IFC Film Studios. The lights were off, the doors were locked, the electricity had been
cut off, and they had locked him out the building, and they break and enter and cause destruction to property and injure themselves while at it.
Disconnected. Jones struggled with one door, mentioned the power being cut, and eventually kicked in a second door to gain entry. Every moment was...
And Jim Jones brought his boys, but his boys ain't as stupid as he is because Jim Jones is trying to impress the young generation of how gangster he is, but he's just showing them how dumb he is. And that's the evil people. They think they are doing something applaudable. However, it's just shameful.
Captured in crisp detail by the building's security cameras, the same cameras that 50 now appeared to have access to. 50 Cent captioned the footage with calculated mockery. "Damn, bro, this wouldn't happen if we was friends. Wanna be friends? I don't know, let's rap about it. LOL. The let's rap about it callback."
You see, 50 Cent ain't gonna rap about it. That's why he's being sarcastic, saying let's rap about it. Cause 50 knows he ain't in the rapping thing. You gotta make movies to combat 50. That's the level he's on.
Back to the podcast name was pointed, deliberate, and designed to twist the knife as deeply as possible, to reinforce the narrative and eliminate any ambiguity about what had happened. 50 also posted an eviction.
He said to twist the knife. This is a twist. A twist with jelly. The jelly. It's actually donut. A twist. Jamaican donut. We call it twist. But it got squish. So that's why it doesn't you don't see the twist. It got squished in my bag.
Notice addressed to Joseph Jones and IFC Management, LLC. The document cited a 15-day default notice that had expired on January 22nd, 2026, followed by a 5-day termination notice that expired February 17th, 2026. By the time the footage was filmed on February 19th, the lease had already been terminated for 2 full days. The notice allowed Jones to retrieve personal belongings by contacting the landlord, but that was the extent of his legal access to the property. Social media reaction was instantaneous and overwhelming.
The internet mocked him. 50 Cent take Jim Jones' feud to next level by bringing in Landlord. I own the joint. I'm a choke. You can't beat 50. Can't beat 5-star though. You can't beat them, man. You have to join them.
Plex described the escalation as next level. Fans flooded comment sections with phrases like peak petty genius and noted how 50 had avoided physical confrontation entirely, replacing fists with financial leverage and surveillance footage. One commenter on X wrote that the feud will last for a lifetime. Others questioned how 50 even obtained the security camera access in the first place, calling it Big Brother.
It's gonna last a lifetime. And these are the things I've been talking about. And 50 Cent outlive Irv Gotti. But if you watch my previous video on my channel, I talked about challenging till death. Like all your enemies, it's always a challenge till death. And the challenge, and how it's being judged, there's a thin line between the winner. Like, I talk about Movado having, Vibes Cartel having a lot of enemies. He have the most enemies competing with till the death. No one in dancehall has any enemy like Vibes Cartel. Like, they all want to see him die and disappear. And that is how you know he's God you. God you that. Because there's way more devils on the earth, as I told you, explained earlier in the beginning. And there's way more fools than wise people. Right? Because only a few is blessed with the insightful brilliancy, that gets to observe and can, understand certain things. Like how I'm talking about this and how the universe works that most people won't really talk about because they don't really spend time to observe their surrounding and Earth itself.
Some speculated that 50's partnership with the landlord had given him unfettered access to the building's entire surveillance system. The YouTube commentary channel All Urban Central broke it down in detail, framing the situation as a collision of old beef, business disputes, and social media spectacle that only 50 Cent could orchestrate. The host then set the scene with precision, acknowledging...
Now look, Jim Jones is hurting himself. This is how he injured himself. I think that door, one of the doors he failed to open because he got injured. But he opened the first one, he kicked the first one open. But I can't really say which one is because there's so many angles on each of them. So I'm not sure which angle this video footage is from.
The duality of what viewers were watching unfold in real time.
I think that door was the one he failed to open because he injured himself after he kicked in the first door.
This is getting disrespectful and hilarious at the same time.
The channel also highlighted the suspicious nature of 50's access to the security footage, raising the question that everyone was thinking about but few could answer definitively.
I just want to know, how did 50 Cent get access to the camera to give it Big Brother?
The contrast between the seriousness of an eviction and the absurdity of how it played out online was what made this moment so potent. 50 Cent had turned a landlord-tenant dispute into content, and he was winning the narrative war decisively. He followed up by giving Jones a deadline.
50 Cent always win. He's the one who crashed Rick Ross' career. And the thing is, here's the thing about it, on the thin line. 50 Cent, he doesn't just go around and do what Footer Hype, who I talked about earlier, who, Footer Hype came from the gully, right? He just gets up and he target the ones who helped him the most to tear them down, right? And it may seem as if 50 Cent do the same, and 50 Cent and Footer Hype, then it's 2F. Like, it might seems aligned, alike, but the thin line is always there to differentiate the good from the bad, right? So 50 Cent doesn't just go around and expose these people. He chooses his target who chooses him. And because Rick Ross was playing for the other side who was against 50, was why Rick Ross caught that stray and 50 Cent ended Rick Ross' career. 50 Cent never stopped his money, but his career is ended because Rick Ross done some great songs, but once people found out that he was a what you call them, correctional officers, like a warden. We call him warden here in Jamaica. You know? So yeah, 50 Cent, he doesn't just go around and bring down people. Right? Rick Ross was playing for the other side who was against 50. But Rick Ross never was much dissing 50. But he did actually a song with a collab with one of his guys, Rick Ross, that was dissing 50. So that was why 50 Cent came out quick, sharp, and ended Rick Ross' career, exposing him in his police uniform. Right? And 50 just made a post saying, this guy rap about being a hustler and whipping Shane Day, and he was a cop. And that blew up the place. So never ever mess with 50 or you're getting some smoke.
Pay up by Monday, or things would get worse. He shared more clips. He tagged more people. He kept the pressure sustained and relentless. Because for 50 Cent, humiliation is not a single event, but a sustained campaign designed to exhaust the target into silence or submission. Online commenters had a field day dissecting every frame of the footage. Some mocked Jones directly. One wrote, from Dipset to set, while another called the group Lobby Boys. Others noted the physical struggle with the door itself, writing, Super Thug Grandpa doesn't even know how to kick a door. But the most cutting observation came from users who tied the footage back to the broader conversation about money and hip-hop, pointing out that these rap guys don't get money like they claim. The footage had done more than embarrass Jim Jones. It had challenged the entire image he had spent decades constructing. Jim Jones responds, and the roots of the rivalry. Jim Jones did not fire back with a press conference or a diss track. Instead, he posted a video on Instagram stories showing himself performing martial arts moves, chopping wood with a Bruce Lee poster in the background. The caption read, Kung Fu Jim, no locked doors at all. It was a response designed to deflect without admitting anything, and commentary channels took notice immediately.
Jim pulled up wearing what looks like the same outfit from the viral clip that started showing.
Yo, Jim Jones is a loser. He's a loser. Him and T.I. and all of them. After 50 ended their career, they think that they still find his energy to do some dumb stuff.
Martial art moves with Bruce Leroy in the back. Talk about show enough.
The analysis from All Urban Central highlighted how Jones avoided playing into 50's hands by refusing to engage on them.
Look at Jones acting as if he's some fashion god in shorts and a Shizza Sherlock, him a take them dressing there from, Shizza Sherlock I got foreign and I show them how to mix some welding suit with all type of mixed things, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, big up Shizza Sherlock with his fashion wear. Yo, we're gonna end it here. You don't need to see no more 50 win, but it's a forever thing, battle that will be going on. And as I said, 50 win the long victory, because they said longer the battle, sweeter the victory, and 50 is still winning. So even if 50 was a goal before these layman, broke-ass MFKRs, it's still a win for 50 and an L for them, you know what I'm saying? Because 50 has long surpassed them, lapped them like 3 times in a race, They can't keep up to his pace. Same for Vibes Cartel, like there's none to challenge them because good will always triumph over evil.
Emotional terms. And